Welcome to Doodle Time! Today we're diving into the world of Stranger Things. We'll be messing around with some markers, some pencils, and some white paper to draw one of the most iconic characters from the show, Eleven. We'll start off with some basic shapes with pencil, and then go over it with some black marker, and then introduce some colors. Then I might go over with some white marker to add some highlights. To start with, you're gonna need some paper, a pencil. I'm using a 2H pencil, but you can use HB. Markers, white gel pen, like my claws. I'm starting off with my pencil and penciling in a guide for myself to line up where everything's gonna land on this paper. So I start with the face, and what I'm doing here is almost creating a box around where the face is gonna land. Then I'll start to contour the edges. And I work a lot with straight lines instead of curved lines. I'm not very good at drawing a nice curved line, so I lean into my strengths here. Now I'm defining the jaw for 11, finding the way it comes down from her ears to her chin. Now I'm finding the shape of 11's shoulders. In this pose, she's stood kind of hunched forward, wearing a kind of baggy denim jacket with big collars, which is what you see me starting to put in place here. Now I'm penciling in 11's hairline, and this is from a time where 11 had buzzed hair. She hadn't grown it out yet. I think that's a lot more iconic of a look than when she was with her longer hair. Now I'm trying to find out where 11's eyes are gonna land. So with the line going horizontally and one going vertically, that kind of tells me where the nose is gonna sit and where both of her eyes are gonna end up sitting. Now 2 little marks I put in, one for the nose and one for her mouth. Now I'm continuing to kind of define 11's shoulders here. Now I'm feeling out this angle here for 11's arm, her other arm. Now she's wearing a jacket, a loose kind of denim jacket with lots of flaps and folds. Trying to finesse in 11's collar for her denim jacket. And here I'm trying to follow the folds and the flaps of 11's jacket down to her sleeve and down to her hand. We'll do something similar on the other side. Doing a line down the center, emulating 11's spine, and another one for her shoulders. Figuring out where 11's hand is gonna land, how it travels down her sleeve, just to make sure my sleeve kind of ends up in the right place. And that's 11's other hand. And at this point, I'm working really lightly with this pencil. I don't want to commit to any lines quite yet. Once everything feels like it's in the right place, I'll thicken these lines up before I go in with a black marker. Penciling in 11's collar. And then the collar on the other side. Little folds and creases in the collar I'm adding right now too. I'm going over any lines I wasn't ready to commit to, and now it's time to commit. Finding all the little folds and creases in 11's jacket. And these little folds here on the sleeve, these are going to indicate which parts are dark and which parts are light. And that'll separate and help kind of bring out the shape of the folds. Now I'm figuring out 11's neck and where the collar of her shirt is going to end up sitting. Right there. It'll sit right there. What about that? Now the part I always mess up. All the details on the face. Get the eyebrows in place. Those come down to the ridge of the nose. And a lot of this detail I'm putting in right now, I'm sure it's going to get lost once I go in with markers. I'm using a very basic Crayola set of 16 markers. Anything that anyone wants to join along can pick up for cheap. I want this to be very accessible. So these markers, they're quite blunt, so once I put them down on the paper, they're going to be a lot thicker than all these lines I'm putting down right now. Lining up the ears from both sides, making sure they're kind of even. If there's one thing I hate, it's lopsided ears. I'm just kidding. I only hate raisins. Raisins. Now watch me mess this part up. I always mess this part up. I'm gonna start off real basic. 2 little ovals. 2 little ellipses for the eyes. I'm figuring out where they end. On either end. All this is gonna go down the bin as soon as I put a marker to this. Pupils. That looks alright so far. Marker time. I'm gonna go over all these outlines with a thick black line. Want all this to stand out and pop out of the page. Now I tend to have to go do my outline twice. I think it's the paper I'm using. The marker doesn't quite soak into it, so my black marker ends up looking quite a bit faded. It looks quite green. But either way, I'm gonna go over this once, lay all the color in, then I'll go over it again. I can live with that. Last little detail there. Oh, one more little detail here. Yeah, and one more little detail here. Time to start coloring. Doing some messy style coloring. That's my forte. Now this brown for Elle's hair isn't quite the color I want, but I know I'm going to go over it again with a different color to get it closer to the range I want it in. My pack of markers, I've got 16 colors in them. None of them are quite close to what I need when I'm coloring stuff in. So I end up having to get close and then mix and match some colors, or just live with the closest results. This is the closest I have to skin tone. Reason I'm using such a limited color palette is I want to make this accessible. Listen, art stuff is expensive. I want you to know you can go out and buy the cheapest stuff out there and still make cool, interesting stuff, or at least find ways to express yourself. So I'm keeping one side of Elle's face on the brighter side to kind of give the impression of a light source coming from the right side of the paper. And then let's see what happens if we introduce some orange in there as well, on top of the pink, to warm up her skin tone a little bit. These markers I'm using, they're meant for kids. I'm not a kid, and they sit so small in my hands. Trying to figure out now how I handle the face. I'm gonna introduce orange everywhere, I think. I feel like the other side of her face that has white right now needs some pink. The white looks too stark. But we'll get to that. Doing another layer on the hair to make that darken a little bit. Now for 11's denim jacket. I'm gonna put a whole layer of light blue over everything to start. Look how tiny these markers are in my hand. Now we can start introducing another color and layer that onto the denim jacket on the blue that we've already put down. So I picked a darker shade of blue and finding areas of the jacket that are inherently darker because less light is hitting them. Now I think I want to start coloring in Elle's dress that she's wearing underneath the denim jacket. Not quite sure yet what color that's going to be. The closest color I have is this kind of wonky purple. But I think I want to get the creases in her dress in place first. Creases. Now I'll use some gray and block in the parts of Elle's dress that are getting hit by shadow. I'm not using a very dark color on the dress, so I don't want to go super dark with the shadow part. Block a little bit in on the other side. This part of her dress kind of sits under the jacket and under her collar. These are all parts where the light source isn't quite making a lot of contact with. Now for the dress. Now Elle's dress, truthfully, is a lot closer in color to the color I chose for her skin, the pink. So the next best color I got is this purple. I'll go over all the gray parts with this purple, layering them both, and over the white parts as well. Now we kind of have two different shades of this purple I'm using. Just like that. Just like that. Now for Elle's hair, I'm not happy with this color I've got. So I'm gonna see if I can do something by introducing some gray to it. And as you can see, that did absolutely nothing. Nothing. Now, as I said before, we're gonna go over this white part of the face with pink. Now, the amount of dimensionality I wanted to add to the skin with the layering of different colors, I don't think I've achieved that quite yet. So I'm gonna introduce one more color and one more layer on top. And introduce a shade totally darker than what I have so far for the skin. I think that'll help add to the dimensionality. Ooh, big word. And with this color, I can kind of bring out the shape of the nose, the bridge of the nose going down. And I'm starting to give a bit of shape to the face. Bring out a bit more shadow under her collar and on her dress. The gray I used originally wasn't quite dark enough. Now it's time to go over the outline one more time and watch how big of a difference this makes. Now what I'm also going to do at this point is, along with just adding an outline, is use this black to add a bit more dimensionality, like that word? Add a bit more dimensionality to Elle's denim jacket. Now I've got three values I'm using for her denim jacket. We've got the black, the darker blue, and the lighter blue, and acting all together, they help give the jacket some shape. A lot more shape than just one color all the way through. Last little bit of detail, bit of shading that I feel is missing. Okay. For the background, what I'm doing is I'm working off a reference image of Eleven walking down this kind of field or valley, down this path. It's a gravel path. So I'm gonna line up where the path is gonna go. There's kind of bushes and stuff around it, and a big cliff in the background. I hadn't used my pencil at the beginning to block all these shapes in place, so at this point I don't want to go too heavy with any of these markers and put things in place and later regret it. So I'm just lightly kind of placing where shapes are gonna end up landing. Here we've got some straw grass. This is a lot how I work when I'm painting. I usually oil paint. Markers are not my forte. I haven't played with markers since I was in elementary school. So I do a lot of blocking in colors here and there, knowing I can go over it and get things where I want. What I can't do with marker is go over with a lighter color on top of a darker color. I can keep working in an oil painting until I'm happy with how something looks. It's a lot trickier with marker. Now behind 11, if we're looking at her, to our left behind her, there's a bunch of straw and grass and stuff kind of sticking up out of the ground. So I'm lightly kind of blocking the shapes in. And I'll go around like this throughout the whole drawing in the background, adding little details where I see they're gonna go. Where I'm unsure, I'll just be light and playful until I'm ready to block in some solid lines. And little by little, this whole background's gonna come together. Now, I'm more or less happy with where everything landed in the background. I think a lot of the shapes kind of blend into each other, so I want to create some separation with a nice outline. I like to avoid using a black marker for my background from when I'm outlining. I think it blends in too much with the foreground. And so in this instance, I'm going to use a dark purple for all my outlining for the background. Now I'm more or less happy with where everything is, except for the dress. That's looking quite bland to me. I want to give a bit more dimensionality to that part. So I'll go in with the same purple I used to color in her dress to begin with. I'll go in with that purple and add another layer to just segments where I feel like it needs it. Okay, I'm more or less happy with things now, except for there are certain parts of this drawing where I want to add some highlights, introduce a lighter color, and unfortunately I don't have a white marker. If I did, I doubt I would be able to add it on top because these are water-based markers. So I'm using a gel pen, which sits nicely on top of any color I have already. So I'll go in and I'm adding little stripes, little lines, instead of coloring it in similar to how I did originally. That way it lets me control how much white comes through. And it still lets some color that's sitting underneath come through as well. I thought I was done, but I'm not happy with the denim jacket. Let's do something about that. What it needs is more dimensionality. And there you have it. 11 from Stranger Things.